Hello and welcome to Office Hours. Today is August 19th, 2020. There's a pandemic going on, but we're going to do SEO anyway. So last couple of weeks, we've been trying to do this tradition where we started with a celebration, something we were able to successfully do over the last week, or something we are finally able to figure out, or some client success. Would either of you like to jump off with a success story this week? Well, we're brooming with success this week. Okay. Well, then I will.
Sorry, I don't have one this week.
That's okay. I had I think I mentioned last week I had a disappointing week because I was losing a client, and thanks to the hard work of a partner of mine, we were able to save that client and they're back in. So that was great.
Oh, they came back?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was very nice. So I was glad to hear that because it's always disappointing to lose one, but there was a little bit of a misunderstanding and miscommunication, and the partner was able to kind of help bridge that gap. And sometimes it's not about SEO results. Sometimes it's about relationships and communication. And I think once we overcame our communication problem, it was like, oh, great, we can just keep going. So.
That was client and got your client back.
Yeah.
All in 1 week. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it was an up and down week last week. And yeah, I closed another client. Actually, it's not officially closed yet. Don't have paper signature on the paper yet, but so that's good. So maybe I'll have another client here shortly. That would be great. But alas, so what would you two like to talk about in terms of SEO this week? Where are you?
I kind of went back, and I think it's number, I'm trying to go back into it. I think it's number 6. I think it's CRO, I think it is. I forgot what step it is.
Conversion rate optimization?
Yes, I believe I read that on your thing. I may have been wrong. That part of it is when you have a large number of traffic coming to your website.
Yeah, so you kind of have to have a little bit of critical mass before you can begin to optimize your conversion rate. So for instance, if you get one conversion a week because you're just starting out, you might not have enough data to do the full conversion rate optimization. But when the reason I put this pretty high up in the list of things to do is because it's probably one of the first things I do for every client. So if this client that I've got a contract out signs up, I already know one of the first things I'm going to do is add a very clear call to action on their website, because they have done the classic mistake, which is they don't make a hard sell. It's not clear how and what you can do if you want to become their customer. There's a teeny tiny little phone number at the top of the page. And if you scroll down, you lose it. There's a little subtle contact us thing on the menu that's kind of downplayed. And again, if you scroll down, so let's say they land on the home page of this client and they say, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Now they've got to try to figure out what to do next. And we don't want them to have to figure that out. We want it to be blatantly obvious. And so the first thing I do with a lot of clients is make it really easy to connect or become a customer of my customers. And that's what I call conversion rate optimization. So the first time is often not using data or A/B testing or anything like that. It's just identifying what's the most important goal for this client. Do they need a lead? Do they want to make a sale? And once you figure out what the most important goal is, you make it really easy for your website users to do that. So to do that part, you don't really need to have a critical mass of clients, of traffic, I should say.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering, should we skip that, or but you said don't skip. So I was wondering when I was reading through, and I was like, okay, he said you have to. It says it's mostly done. Not you don't. I don't think you said you have to have, but you mentioned in there that it's usually done when you have a good amount of traffic coming to your site.
Yeah, yeah, and I think Lavanya, you're a good designer, so you should be able to look at a website really quickly and see, does the website make you want to do the thing that your client makes money from?
You
And if,
know, that is one of the biggest things that, well, I told you guys I build funnels and I follow Russell Brunson, who is the owner of ClickFunnels. And that is one of the things he talks about with websites, is that a lot of them are built where you go to it and it's like, how do I buy from you? And it takes you through all of these loops and hurdles to actually be able to be their customer. And that is one of the reasons why those funnel sites are so successful, because it's, here's the thing, here's how you buy the thing, here's what you get with the thing, you can give me money now.
well, I feel like sometimes web designers can almost be afraid of asking for the sale. It's like they want to pussyfoot around it because they like, well, we don't want to offend you, so we don't want to close the deal. I just want to show you I know what I'm talking about, and then maybe and for a website, that's too subtle. Like, I'm coming to a website because I've done a Google search for a service or product I need. I've laid it on a page that's related to the service or product I need. I want to give you money. Don't make it hard for me to figure out how to do that. And that's why it's one of the first things I do. So the first thing with this one client that I might start with soon is make sure that phone number is big and it's obvious and not subtle. It doesn't have to be obnoxious. It still should be consistent with the design of the site. But why do I want to make it hard for someone to find the phone number with which I can contact you? Or let's say the call to action for them is get a quote. Great. I want to make it easy for you to get a quote. And, so you don't have to have a lot of traffic to start that process. Just
When I started out, I see what you're saying, because I didn't have another phone number and I didn't want people calling my personal number.
right.
So I finally got another number, but I haven't put it up on my site yet. But I have a call to action at the top of the page, get started, and takes them to a form to fill out.
Right.
But now that I have a number, I guess I should also put that there too, because I do know that people like to talk to people versus emails or computer generated stuff.
Yeah. All I do is I got a free number from Google Voice.
Google, yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah. And that's the number on my website. So if you call me, I'm never going to get you. You're just going to go straight to voicemail, which is fine. And if you're a legitimate lead, not a salesperson, I will call you back. But
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to salespeople, and I don't want my cell phone number on that.
Absolutely. And one of the things, though, and I immediately thought about what Lavanya said about the form. If somebody wants a quote, if I want a quote, I have no problem with filling out a form saying, I'm interested in this, and here's how to get in contact with me.
Mm-hmm.
Or even something where somebody can do that initial consultation where they say, okay, here are available slots that you and I can have this mini phone conversation. That as a, but for me, if you want a quote from me, if I have some information from you before we have a conversation, it's a much more productive conversation than someone calling me out of the blue. Now, for uh, someone that sells a product, that may not even be a thing because the product costs what it costs. If you buy 10, it costs this. If you buy 100, it costs that. But for those of us with services, the more information we have, the better quote we're able to give.
Yeah.
I feel that web forms are a slippery slope because me as the receiver of the web forms, I want as much information as I can get to give a quote, for instance. But if I'm the user of a website, I don't want to have to give away everything because sometimes I don't even know all the information, you know? So it's this fine balance of asking enough information to begin and qualify them, but not making the customer do the hard work of telling you everything and having to fill out a page-long form to get all the information that you need. I have a customer who really likes to do this, and we have a conversation going back and forth. They literally have a 3-page form. And he really loves it when people fill out that form because it's very comprehensive. It's everything he needs to give a quote. But the number of people who fill out that long form are very few because sometimes people just don't even know the questions like, what is the dimension of your room? I don't really want to, I don't know. Like, I just want to get a ballpark, man. Like, so you have these I think are all conversion rate optimization questions to ask that you can do without even having like enough data to do an A/B test to test the effectiveness of things.
Oh, I love him and his 3-page form. I can see where a question like, what's the dimensions of a room would be like, I don't know. But on the other hand, anybody that takes the time to fill out his form, he's already pre-qualified them. So
Yeah.
he knows whether he has a real potential client or somebody just shopping by the sheer information that he's asking. So I see both sides of that, like what you're talking about, but
Yeah.
questions like dimensions of a room, I have no idea. And most people would be I have no idea.
Yeah, and that's we're reiterating the conversation I have with this client all the time. Because he doesn't want to waste his time doing a quote for something that's not going to be a good project. I get that. But what if he's also discouraging good projects who don't have their ducks in a row yet? And my suggestion is always pushing back to ask as little information as possible, knowing that yes, you're going to have to do a little extra work later, but you're not potentially frustrating good customers.
Or he can put on his form, I guess, at the top when if they read it, to that this is just to gather some information. Don't worry if you don't know all the answers. We'll go over that over the call. Something to
Yeah,
that nature.
that's a compromise, but the problem with this form is it literally is here's a page and then you hit submit and it goes to another page
Ah,
and you're like, and I actually used Google Analytics to set up a funnel so we can show how many people even get to the second page. And then of those people, how many people get to the third page? And of those people, how many people even go finish the third page? To show how many people drop off before they even complete thing. To say, yeah, I know these are really qualified leads, but you might be missing out on more opportunity. And you're right. This is the challenge.
Okay, I raised my hand because I would be one of those people that probably did not make it to the end of the third page. Maybe. It really depends on what it is. Because if it's something that I know in my heart of hearts that it's worth what I'm doing, I will do it. But that sounds like when I was still applying for jobs with companies, and they would have you upload your resume and then have you fill out an application.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I hate
Why do you have me upload my resume if you're gonna ask me everything that's on that used to drive me crazy. And really, if it wasn't one of those jobs that was like, ooh, I really would love to do this. Once I saw that, nope, screeching halt, not worth my time.
Yep. My pet peeve is websites that in the form ask, how did you hear about us? Google, Yahoo, Bing, Facebook. Because first of all, I'm your customer. Why are you putting the burden on me as your customer to justify your marketing dollars? That just kind of offends me as a customer. It also makes me kind of feel not particularly valued as a customer because I'm just another lead and you want to know the source found me. Second of all, that data is in Google Analytics. So you should know that already. Why are you doing it, putting on the customer? And in fact, I have another client, they ask as part of their onboarding process, so how did you hear about us? And I always tell them, don't ask that. But they ask, and the client will say, yeah, I heard about you from Google. Okay. Well, it makes me look good because I'm the SEO and that's what I do. But I can go into the data and say, it wasn't Google, it was Bing. Or sometimes they'll say it's Facebook, and I'm like, nope, it's not Facebook, it's Google. Look, I've got tracking information that says this person came from Google, not Facebook. In their perception, either most of the time people don't even know, because it's the process of becoming a customer isn't just one step there. Most of the time there's a longer process people are vetting. So what happened in this case when someone says Facebook, but it really was Google, it might have been, well, Google introduced them to the client and then they went to their Facebook page and the Facebook page convinced them to call the client. So in their mind, it's Facebook that did the sale, but in reality, they never would have gotten to Facebook if they hadn't gone to Google first. And so why put that burden on the client? Treat the client like a person and value them. And meanwhile, we'll get all the data behind the scenes to know how they really found us rather than expect them to figure that out or do that.
That's
Sorry.
really funny because in the customer service world, that is a question. How did you hear about us? Every place you go, how did you hear about us? And sometimes that is especially important if it was another customer's referral.
Right.
Because then it's like, oh, so-and-so referred you. So, hey, let me do nice for so-and-so because,
Yeah.
So yeah, but that question has been around for how long? It's part of those things that maybe it's time for us to kind of, like you said, there's other ways of getting that information. Maybe it's time to ask that question.
Well, and I think there's a friendly way to ask it. When you're making me put which search engine I use to find you into that, then that feels a little impersonal. But if you asked, did anybody recommend you to us or us to you? Hey, now it's a question I'm happy to say. oh, Anita was speaking about you and how awesome you are, Lavanya. So that's why I decided to use you. Yeah, I might have used Google and the data might tell me Google, I went to Google to find you, but we would like to know that that happened. So I think it's all on how you ask and leaving it open-ended like that, yeah, especially in this case where it's oftentimes not really a referral. It's purely an online transaction. And we have data that proves it knows it better than the client. Why burden them with that?
That's a great point, and I like the leaving it open that way. If it was just something they found online, they can say that. If somebody told them about you, they can say that too.
Yeah, I would definitely want to know if someone recommended me because you're right. I would like to thank that person. Is that enough conversion rate optimization stuff for you, Lavanya, even if you don't have critical mass of data?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Well, I'm kind of using that in from a different perspective, uh, as this one site has not been officially, you know, launched yet. So I'm using that same train of thought to say to the customer, what is it that you really want to accomplish? So that when we put this out there, it's already looking in that direction, and we're not trying to get people to do X if you want them to do D. So I'm using it from that standpoint of from the beginning. So hopefully down, as you said, it's a continual process. It's never a one and done. But I feel like if we start it off right, then we're more apt to get it right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, especially if you're doing a redesign, it's a great opportunity, you know, to start off on the right foot. Why I like to do it this so early in an SEO campaign is that even if the SEO traffic isn't all that great yet, by making it easier to convert, I'm getting more of the few people I'm already getting to convert because it's easy to convert. So it's an easy early win that makes the customer realize, oh, it's not about rank or traffic. It's about getting new customers from this. And I want my clients to think about in terms of new customers because that justifies my existence because now they're paying me for those new customers, not for some nebulous metric like traffic or rank. I think that's a great way to approach it. Well, any other SEO questions you two can think of that you'd like to address? Did you see that there's more information about the Brazilian GDPR?
I think I received an email on that.
Yeah. So that's going to be, and now I read something about the United States federal government starting to put together their own version.
Not making it easy on us. I guess because of the pandemic, everybody's moving to online, I guess.
Well, there are nefarious people who would like to use this data for bad, not for good.
Yeah.
And because of that, those of us who just want to have an idea of how someone found our companies, now we have to pay the price, sometimes literally pay the price for the services we need to support that.
True. Um, I like your lead gen playbook. Anita, I don't know if have you looked at the CRO document? Because I was going to ask you. You said you follow Russell Brunson, and I was wondering is this something like his what his training looks like, or the playbook that David has?
I would have to look at it with that kind of thought of comparisons in mind. Really, what he is where he's coming from is a standpoint of marketing in general and not being a sleazy marketer. And that's one of the things I like about him is he is very so much not as the sleep, those guys that just but it's just basic. If technology went away tomorrow, and none of us wish that, you could take these same principles offline,
Oh,
make it
okay.
work. A lot of the stuff he talks about is just bringing stuff that people were doing before there was an internet and making it work for the tools we have now. So, one of the things he talks about is the importance of building up your mailing list, and not just building up a mailing list, but staying engaged with your mailing list and giving value to the people that are on your mailing list. And he's like, if you do that, if you have a bad conversion on your mailing list, it should look something like $1 a month per person. But when you have, a good rapport with them and you're offering something that is definitely of interest and of use.
Oop,
Okay.
I think we lost you. Can you hear us, Anita?
Yes, my little one decided to press the mute button on the headset. You remember I told you I can double mute. She just muted me.
Oh my God.
So, but that's the kind of thing that, and making it so that whatever you're selling, that people can easily identify that. You know, what are you offering? What are you selling? What is the value? He's real big on value and over delivering. So all of his stuff is about marketing,
Oh,
but the only time he really talks about websites is when he talks about the people's website that you go on it and you can't find how to buy at all. And that's why they built he built this tool with some friends, and how much easier it can make life when you have tools. We all like tools.
oh, okay. Okay, so I think it's a little different, but yeah, David, I like these Legion you put on the link you put on that page. I went through it. It's nice.
Good.
It's very helpful.
Yeah, that's something those little guides Google released a few years ago. The UX playbooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're really helpful. I mean, I think they're available on the internet if you Google UX playbooks. But I found them really
Since I
interesting.
couldn't find the album The Book of Molly in your music library,
Whoops.
here's a similar mix on Google Play
Alexa, or
Music.
hey Google, stop. Hey Google, stop. My home device just interrupted our conversation.
You gotta love Alexa.
Oh yeah, this is worse. This is Larry and Sergey Brin, Larry Page and Sergey Brin interrupting me and listening in on me all day. But
You have Google
Google.
Home.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
But we have that, and it's funny when it just decides to start talking out of nowhere, um, which usually what triggers it is something off of the baby's little videos, and it'll start trying to tell you something about Baby Shark.
oh boy, oh boy. Well, all right. Well, do we have any other questions or any other topics we'd like to discuss today?
There was one thing I noticed in the article about blogs.
Yes, ma'am.
You said it's a good idea to have one category. Typically one category, because it's like, if you're, let's just say, if you're talking about anxiety and uh, maybe some tools to help decrease your anxiety, wouldn't that be two different categories, or should it just live under one? I'm,
Yeah.
looking at this and looking at, all these blogs that I end up dealing with on a weekly basis, and just trying to, think how to best make them work.
Yeah, I find that sometimes people get really tag and category happy. And what ends up happening is they tag and categorize all their posts so many ways that the categorization, the tagging system become very confusing and cumbersome. So while I don't think it's one post per category, what I do suggest is don't create a new category unless there's at least 2 or 3 posts that could be described by that category. That way the categories don't have just one post in them, and it becomes a useless, like, why bother to categorize if there's only one thing for that? I also recommend people plan with their categories. So think ahead. What are the topics about which they're going to write, and try to fit topics in there rather than just start doing random creation of categories and tags. I swear I've heard people say that, oh, if you tag your posts, they do better in Google. And if I ever meet that person who first said that, I'm going to smack them. Like, what a crazy idea. That is so, I have no idea why you'd even think that. But because the whole tag and category thing is really about allowing the user to find other content on the same topic. So it's really for people. The Google doesn't give you advantages by tagging or categorizing. In fact, you could cause all kinds of problems by tagging and categorizing in a way that's not organized and concise. For instance, if you, like WordPress will allow you to create 2 categories, even if you use the same word, if you use different capitalization. So what you could end up doing is having 2 category pages that are exact copies. The only difference being is that one category is a uppercase and the other is lowercase. That doesn't offer any help to anybody except creating confusion of what's the difference. But it creates a problem in Google when Google sees that there's 2 identical pages. Why is Google wasting its time on this? So that's, I think my recommendation is more plan your categories and write with your categories. You can always add more categories later, but try to only add a category if you really feel there's at least 2 or 3 that already exist on that category, and you're going to write about that category in the first place. I think the other thing I said was every post should have only one category. It should be one thing that it's about. If you want to do an organization of your blog where they have things in like you can have multiple things per post, then I would use tags and not categories. So for instance, I might do a category called, I don't know, let's think of something. Category called health, and tags for different body systems, respiratory, nervous, autoimmune, I don't know. And so
Gotcha.
if I write a health post, it goes in the health category. And then I use tags to say, okay, this is about respiratory and autoimmune. And so I can tag both, but I'm organizing the content using this kind of planning ahead.
That makes sense. Thank you.
I just feel like it's a lot easier to manage and more helpful to users. But there, if you wanted to do it different, then this is just my opinion, really.
Well, I think my thoughts are along the lines of optimization, what makes the best sense in the long run. You know, I can see how having one blog post appear under two different categories may confuse someone. So in the long run, is that helpful?
Yeah. I think asking the question, is it going to be confusing in two categories, is probably one of the most important questions. From thinking about it from an SEO perspective, those category pages can become landing pages Google sends traffic to, but they're suboptimal landing pages. You land on a page that lists a bunch of blog posts, that's not very good user experience. I don't want people landing on those pages. I want them to land on an article or a blog, complete blog post, not a bunch of snippets. And so I don't want to create too many categories and use categories and tags as ways that people could land on my website. You know, at least because it's a bad landing page experience. At worst, because typically those category pages aren't built for conversion. So it's really hard to get a visitor to convert off those pages. So yeah, it can, and also I'd say, if you've ever tried to clean up a website with a crazy blogging category system, oh Lord, it's so difficult. So plan ahead now.
Right. And that's what I'm thinking, especially working with a site that is nothing but a blog site, is being on the front end of how things are categorized and laid out rather than coming on the back end having to figure out a mess
Oh yeah, yeah,
that I made.
yeah. And because if you do uncategorize things or untag things, you're going to have a bunch of 404 pages because those aren't going to exist anymore. Now you're going to set up a whole bunch of 301 redirects to compensate for those 404 pages. So now you've just created a real mess for yourself while Google tries to figure out how to even get to the article. So planning ahead will save you a lot of headache later.
Okay, so you're saying have the blogs, the titles and everything written out before we decide to put them on the website. Like if you, instead of doing 2 or 3 blogs, well, you said it has to have at least 2 or 3 blogs before you put it on your website, right? You would suggest that.
I'm suggesting I'm actually not suggesting that.
Oh.
I'm saying, you know how you can categorize your blog posts?
Mm-hmm.
Think about your categories before you start writing your blog.
Oh, okay.
Plan ahead how you're going to organize your blog with categories so that you can keep up with it. You know, you don't really have to have categories. If your blog is only about one topic, you could skip the category thing. But if you're going to be thinking about, okay, this is going to talk about SEO and web development and social media and email marketing, well, those might be 4 categories. And so you might establish those categories before you even start writing. But I wouldn't launch the email marketing category until you had at least 2 or 3 articles already written for the email marketing category.
Oh, okay.
I'm just planning ahead. So like I kind of did this with Curious Ants. I have a category called blog, which is all blog posts, but I have two subcategories under that. I have the office hours category and the updates category. And so now if someone's on the blog, they can get to all the office hours by going and clicking on the office hours category. So I just help them find all the office hours posts. But if they want to see like the updates, they can click on the updates and they can see all the updates of the processes since we started. And so by organizing, I'm hoping to be helpful for people to be able to navigate through the site to see what's going on. But I didn't create the office hours category until I had a couple of office hours published on the site.
Okay.
All right. Well, I got to get rolling. But any last questions before we say goodbye for the week?
Well, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it's good to see you, or at least hear you both.
Good to be here. Enjoyed my time as usual. And I hope you both have a wonderful week.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.